The Community Hatchery initiative began in 2001 with the realization that local trout fisheries in our area were declining. Previous stocking efforts had been providing large-bodied fish that did not reproduce well in our smaller inland lakes, especially under climate change. Following several community meetings, a group led by Dennis and Mary Lefevre decided to create the North Hastings Community Fish Hatchery. The mission statement is to engage the community in the management and stewardship of local fishery resources and to ensure they are available for the enjoyment and use of present and future generations, to raise local fish for local lakes. The hatchery is raising a unique local strain of lake trout named the Jewel that has adapted over time to the conditions in our area and is more likely to sustain healthy lake trout populations into the future. In recent years, the hatchery has also expanded production efforts to include brook trout and brown trout. The North Hastings Community Fish Hatchery is a community, volunteer-based, not-for-profit organization with Federal Charitable Status that is raising local fish for local lakes.
Okay, it's Mary Lefevre, like a temperature I tell people, because no one can spell it. And we bought this farm in the late 90s, moved up here in 98. We bought it in 94, and it was all vacant land except for the barns. And we built a house and during 98, and starting in the spring, and then we moved in the fall. All in all, the hatchery configuration was unique to Ontario, and I think it still is unique to Ontario. Unfortunately, we have to run from wells, and the provincial hatcheries, having the ability to put them wherever they wanted, mostly either draw from large lakes or from artesian wells. So we don't have that luxury. We have to economize with the water that we have. That's why we go with a recycling system, and the system is set up so that for every liter of incoming clean water, there's 250 gallons circulating through the system. So we have a liter in, a liter out, but in the meantime 250 gallons are being held within the system. That means that you have to be extra careful with cleanliness, because if there's an infection in one tank, there's going to be an infection of all the tanks because the water is circulating among all the tanks. Now the combo tanks, that's the round ones, they get fresh well water directly. They do not get recirculated water because they're eggs and very young fish susceptible to different issues. So we get them hatched and started to a certain size, then they are moved into the raceways, as you can call them, and provided locally. All the supplies, all the contractors, the concrete people, the roofers, everybody was local. But the only thing that we weren't able to produce locally were those round tanks and the recycling towers. And they have to come up from Louisiana, so that was an exciting time when the big transport truck delivered them and backed up to the back door and started unloading these tanks. But all the spring of that year, in June of that year, and the glee on his face when he was holding up the first stocking permit for the fish reared in this hatchery, that's what's captured by that picture. And it's my most favorite picture of my husband. I have it in the house, and it's in a number of other locations where we needed a picture for Dennis. And you can see the transfer slip, you can look at the dates. And a month and a half after that picture, he passed on.
So sorry.
As I was explaining when we were looking at that picture showing Dennis's stocking the first fish out of this hatchery in the spring of 2010, Dennis passed away in June of 2010, so he at least lived long enough to see the first fish go into the water. And I have photos of him and all the kids and volunteers stocking that fish, and it was just an exciting time. However, when Dennis passed away, it was absolutely, totally unexpected. He stood up and he dropped dead at my feet. That was all the warning that we had. So Dennis, since he lived close by, he was there in the morning, he came home for lunch, he was there after lunch, and he came home for supper, and then he'd close the hatchery in the evening. So he did the other volunteers, which we had a number, didn't have full responsibility for the routines of the hatchery. So Kevin Vance, Dennis Brown, and Terry Campbell met in Kevin's office. I remember phoning him that first day, and they sat down and they developed a routine for the volunteers that they followed that first year. It was a rough and ready thing because they sort of had to learn on the job, and but no fish perished due to that sort of technique. And by the beginning of next year, they had got a full year under their belt, and they were fully competent volunteers. And as long as I live, I will never forget those three gentlemen working to continue Dennis's dream.
You guys do? What exactly is the North Hastings Community Fish Hatchery? Because it's a whole overarching thing, but we need to know, what exactly does it do for the community?
Well, we get fish in as eggs and we raise them up until they're ready to be stocked out into local lakes, and we rehab lakes that are low and decimated in population. We do have the biggest fish in Ontario that we release out, and we're very proud of that.
Now, what I want to know is, you guys are always looking for volunteers. You guys could always use a hand. How can someone get involved? How can someone help out with the North Hastings Community Fish Hatchery?
If anybody's ever interested in volunteering at the hatchery, they can always just show up at the hatchery every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. That's when we do our major cleaning and most of our volunteers show up.
And so it's not like you don't need to, call you ahead of time. You just show up there on a Tuesday morning?
You can just show up, or you can visit our website at fishhatchery.ca.
That's perfect. Ian, thank you so much for that. Good again for the camera. What's the egg process? How do you get the eggs here,
The eggs are collected from a donor lake, which is close nearby. They'll set nets out, and when they collect the fish that are ready to spawn, over the spawning shoals, they'll collect them and then they'll milk them for the eggs and the sperm, and then they'll be fertilized, and then they're shipped here, and we take it from there. We disinfect them to make sure that there's no diseases, and then we grow them from there until they get to ready to be stocked out. Tanks, which is short for combination, we use them for various stages of the fish's life. Then when they get to a certain size, we put them in the raceways, the larger tanks over here. Okay, so if you want to come over, I'll show you.
It eliminates any foreign bacteria we don't want in the hatchery. So they're sterilized. Once they're sterilized, we bring them over and they put them in the commie trays over here. And that's a big tray where the eggs are hatching. You got water flow over it. You've got a corrugated surface that the eggs sit on. As the eggs hatch, they drop down through the slot, and then the little baby fingerlings will be underneath.
Show again.
Yeah. Well water right here, and it'll be stay up to the level here. There's a stopper in the tank, which makes the level stay where it is, and the water just flow over the eggs evenly all the time. That keeps the oxygen level up enough to stay alive. You have to have running water to keep them separated. Now, while it's rotating, on the diagonal, they have good bacteria growing. It eats all the bad bacteria that's in the water. There's the whole principle behind it. So you want it to eat the ammonia and all the other things that you don't want in your system.
hatchery?
Just a volunteer on the committee that puts on the banquet.
And for the fish hatchery dinner that we saw here tonight, what was your role in all of that?
Well, I helped coordinate some of the groups that were out actually soliciting ticket sales and sponsor businesses to get sponsorship and so on, and just everybody just kicked in together to make this all happen.
Now, what I want to know at this point, John, is, obviously this isn't the first year that they've had the fish hatchery dinner. What do you think makes it so special?
Well, I think it's the local aspect of it. We're providing local fish for local lakes, which is doing stocking. We're putting really sustainable fisheries back into some of these lakes that have lost their sustainable fisheries over the years, and it's really people really enjoy putting money and participating in something that's going to a local initiative.
Now, how many years have you come to the fish hatchery dinner anyway?
Well, I think the hatchery, don't quote me, I think it's 11 years they've had it. I'm not sure, but...
But you've been coming to it since it started?
No, I haven't. This is my inaugural time, actually.
Okay. So, coming off your inaugural time then, what was your favorite part about the fish hatchery dinner? What really stood out to you at the moment?
Well, I guess what got me was a lot of it was this morning when we came here at 8 o'clock or a quarter after 8, and the place was crowded with volunteers who were setting up tables, and as you can see here, everybody's tearing things down, working together, and it was a real joint effort by everybody to make this happen. And you can't make something this large happen with a few people. It took everybody here, the whole community, really.
Now, John, do you know anything about the Adopt a Trout program and how people can get involved with the North Hastings Community Hatchery?
Yes, they have a program. People have the opportunity to pay $20, and that purchases basically one fish, and that fish then will be raised in the hatchery to be released into the local lake. So you can do it individually, you can do it as a family, you can do it as many fish as you want. And so I actually sold $200 worth to one business, and he put all the people who worked at the business and their friends and neighbors on the 20 fish, or the $20 ticket. Bought 10 fish, so he spent $200. So
now, what I want to know is, you're a volunteer. What if someone wanted to volunteer with the fish hatchery? What would they do?
By all means, come out to the fish hatchery. It's on the Hatchery Road. Every Tuesday they have volunteer all show up and actually clean the tanks and do a lot of work on Tuesday morning. So if you want to come out, show up on Tuesday morning and just show your interest and actually look around the place. It's a very high-tech operation that raises the fish, and they're great success rate, and better than some of the fish hatcheries that we've seen in the past. They keep the fish there longer, and they're larger when they're released, and their chance of survival is that much better.
Now, what I want to know is, if someone wanted to find you guys online, is there a website they could find you at?
I'm not sure. There probably is.
That's okay. Thank you.
I call her St. Mary. Everybody's got a patron saint. Our fish hatchery's patron saint is St. Mary. As there are so many people that help out with the hatchery, as those of you that are here tonight have seen the number of people that it takes to put this function together. If you'd have seen who was here this morning getting it up, the kids from the high school helping in the kitchen, Mark McGibbon, of course, she's awesome. It takes a pile of work to make the fish hatchery run, and it's hard to pick one person, but we always pick one each year. So we want to recognize that person now, and Mary can help me peel the sticker off here.
This is my most favorite time of the year. It sounded as though Kevin and I chose the Volunteer of the Year, but that's not true. The Volunteer of the Year is chosen by the other volunteers, and I think it's the most valued reward people get when their co-workers and their friends choose them as the Volunteer for the Year. So this is a surprise for me too, so I'm just going to, this is it, let me just see. Ian Henry. Woo! Ian spent a lot of time this year joining the board for us, which he wasn't at the beginning, and he also spent a tremendous amount of time gathering all the prizes and coordinating that for fundraising for us. So again, thank you very much, Ian, and congratulations. Woo!